Do you struggle to win matches but aren't quite sure why? Your serve's solid, your technique's pretty good, you're playing a lot, but there's something holding you back and for some reason it's not quite transferring into wins. It might be that you're not quite executing this simple pattern well enough. This pattern is one of the most fundamental, simple tennis tactics, and you can see it being used at the top level of the professional game right down to the club level. But first, let me tell you what happened to one of the players that I coached who struggled to implement this pattern well. Now, early on in coaching him, I realised that he had a really good down-the-line forehand that he could execute really well in practice. Whenever we did different basket drills, he could execute it nearly flawlessly every single time. However, once we started playing points, he struggled to win any points with it. He'd either end up missing it, or he wouldn't really have much of an opportunity to use it because I had him on the run most of the time. So where was he going wrong? Well, imagine you went to a comedy show and the comedian was up on stage and he was only delivering the punchlines over and over again without any context or without any setup. Everyone in the audience would be confused and it wouldn't be a very good show. Well, that's exactly what this player was doing with his forehand down the line. He went into every single match trying to execute the punchline without setting it up within the cross-court first. The best players in the world are unbelievable at winning the cross-court battle. They have the patience to keep building and building within that cross-court without delivering the punch yet. And by getting good at building within that cross-court, you're able to put your opponent under pressure where they're forced into giving you that short ball that you can attack on down the line. And if you get really good at this, not only will you get short balls, but you'll also get the opportunity to go back behind, or you'll force your opponent into making errors by trying to go down the line too early and missing it, or they'll go down the line and you'll have the opportunity to attack them in the cross-court again because they'll have left a bunch of space by going down the line prematurely. Now you know the importance of having the patience of building within the cross-court, and you know a few different ways in which you can win that cross-court battle. The question becomes, how do you actually build effectively within the cross-court to put yourself in those positions and win that cross-court battle way more often? As you might have guessed, it's not just aimlessly rallying within the cross-court, just getting it in over and over again. You've actually got to put your opponent under a little bit of pressure. That's why I'm referring to these shots as building rather than just rallying. Now, I think we've all played a player where we feel so rushed and we don't have any time to get in the right position and we're not able to get back in time to beat the bounce. And by beating the bounce, I mean, are you in position before your ball bounces on the other side? And if you're not, then you're going to be compromised with your positioning and leave space open on the court for your opponent to attack you. And this is exactly what you want to do to your opponents when you're in that cross-court battle. And you do this by breaking the baseline and breaking the sideline. You need to hit balls that are still rising as they're crossing those lines. This means after the first bounce of your shot, the ball should still be rising as it's crossing the baseline and sideline before it reaches its peak in the trajectory of the ball. And this is the most effective way to get your opponent off the court and out of position and create space so that you can attack down the line or go back behind. And a great drill to practice this is setting a timer for 1 minute and just rallying in that cross court and seeing how many balls you can hit between you that rises over the baseline and the sideline. And it's really important whilst you're doing this to make sure that you get your recovery position back to an appropriate place on the court and you're not just camping out in the tram lines. Here's a clip of how it looks in action. Now this drill is so good because it measures the quality of your rally ball. Of course, you could just get a lot of rising balls if you hit it super high and slow, almost like a moon ball, over and over again. But this isn't going to be good for your development as a tennis player, because once you get to play the good players, they're just going to take advantage of that, either drive volley them or they're just going to attack you off it. This drill is good because it not only measures the amount of rising balls that you hit, but the tempo. The more you hit, the faster pace you're going to have to hit those rally balls. And it's going to be more effective within the match. You hit rising balls at a fast tempo. Another great exercise that you can do is rally in the cross court, but this time you're in a point situation. As soon as one player breaks the sideline on the baseline with the rising ball, they can go down the line and then the point would be open. If they choose not to go down the line and continue rallying in the cross court and the other player then breaks the baseline on the sideline, either player can go down the line whenever they want, and as soon as one player goes down the line, the point's open. It's not as confusing as it sounds. Let me show you this clip now so that you can really see it in action. So now you've got the importance of building in the cross, theory behind it, some exercises that you can do to practice it. I'm now going to share with you 4 simple tips that you can do to actually effectively hit that rising ball more often. But now it goes without saying that you're going to have really good footwork to do this effectively, because if you're not in position, you're not going to have a good contact point. And if you don't have a good contact point, everything I'm about to tell you is completely useless. So it's really important to have a high footwork intensity and do your best to get a good contact point on every single ball. Okay, number 1, you need to play with good height over the net. Of course, hitting flat, low and hard can be effective against some players, but good players will be able to absorb that pace and give it straight back to you. And by hitting it low and hard, you're going to struggle to get the ball off the court or over the baseline and push them back. So hitting with height is going to give you the ability to push your opponent back and actually expose their movement a little bit more. Number 2, it's really important to make sure your wrist is relaxed through the contact of your shots, because then you're going to be able to get below the ball and generate a lot more spin, so that when the ball bounces, it really kicks up and starts rotating more. If you don't get that spin on the ball, even if you get height, it's not going to rise up and it's going to be a pretty flat trajectory after the bounce. Okay, number 3, if you're going for more of an angle shot to break the sideline, you're going to hit the ball differently to how you would when you're going deep. So it's really important on those shots that when you're making contact with the ball, it's much more of a thinner contact. You're not going to go extending through the ball as much. You're going to really have that thin contact so that it really dips down and gets off the court quickly. Now, if you're going for those deeper balls to break the baseline, you're going to have to do something slightly different. You're going to have to extend through the ball a little bit more. You're going to still have a relaxed wrist, but then when you're hitting the shot, you want to make sure that when you hit the ball, it extends further through so you're able to get more depth from the shot and it just doesn't sit in the service box. Have the relaxed wrist to get the spin, but extend through the shot to get the height and the depth on the shot. Now, I don't want to overload you with too much technical information here, because once you do the exercises and you get a few rising balls in a row, you'll get the feeling for it. And it's always important to remember the feeling is more important than thoughts going through your head when you're playing tennis. So once you get that feeling, focus on the feeling and then you'll be able to execute it over and over again. Okay, so everything I've told you in this video about the pattern of building within the cross court to win that battle is going to be completely pointless if you never even get into that situation. So make sure you watch this video here where I show you a great all-round game to improve your serve so that you're able to start the point well, so you're actually able to get in a position where you can use what you learned in this video and win the cross-court battle.